Today's lesson is all about simplifying and equivalent fractions, and this is actually a review. Alright, so to start out, equivalent fractions. Equivalent fractions have the same value even though they may look like different fractions. They are really the same. 1/2 is the same thing as 2/4, which is the same thing as 4/8. Why are they the same? Well, because when you multiply or divide both the top and the bottom number, the fraction keeps its value. The most important thing to remember is, and you need to have this written in your notes, change the bottom using multiply or divide, and the same to the top must be applied. You don't need to necessarily write it in that little poem kind of thing, but what you need to know is whatever you do to the top, you have to do to the bottom. So if you multiply the bottom by 2, you got to multiply the top by 2. That's how it goes. Alright, simplifying fractions. What do I mean when I'm simplifying a fraction? To simplify, also sometimes called reducing fractions, means to make the fraction as simple as possible. Why say 4/8 when we really mean 1/2? So we have these 3 pictures of pizzas down here. And each of these pictures of pizza has the same amount of pizza. The only thing that's different is how many slices it's cut into. So this is going to help us see equivalent fractions. And remember, equivalent fractions are fractions that have the same value. So let's start with our 4/8 pizza. If I was going to cut this pizza into how many slices it really had when it was a full pizza, I know that it has 8 different slices. Now, just looking at this pizza, before we move any further, I want you to just take a second and look at the visual of the pizza and see if you can come up with a reason why we might call it 1/2 of the pizza. Alright, so next we have 2/4 of a pizza. So a quarter means that it is in fourths. So we have 4 different slices of this same pizza, and I have 2 of them. So 4/8 is also equal to 2/4. Alright, so I'm looking at my last piece, my last drawing right here, and this pizza was cut into only 2 slices, 2 really big halves. And so there's 1/2 of the pizza left. So I can also say that 2/4 is the same thing as saying 1/2. Now I asked you before to kind of think about why 4/8 would we say that it's 1/2 just by looking at this picture. Well, if you saw that this picture has pretty much half of the pizza gone, and you realize that without even having to make the connection to 4/8 is 2/4, which is also 1/2. That's the same thing. That's why we have you use models sometimes, because it helps you visualize the fact that 4/8, yes, it really is the same thing as 1/2. And that means that they are equivalent. Alright, so when we simplify, there's a few different strategies that you can use. So the first strategy I'm going to show you is to simplify using division. So you're going to want to write this down in your notebook, in your notes, to make sure that you have this. Alright, so when I am simplifying, I am going to find the greatest common factor between the 2 numbers. When I find that greatest common factor, I can divide those 2 numbers by the factor to get the smallest form possible. So I already know, looking at these 2 numbers, that 12 and 24 are both even, and I can divide any even number by 2. Well, I could do that, but if I was going to divide these 2 numbers by 2, I think it would take me a while to get the answer that I really want to get. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to list the factors off to the side up here of 12 and 24. So first of all, let's list the factors of 12. I know I have 1 times 12. I have 3 times 4. And I have 6 times 2. In 24, I have 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, and and 4 times 6. So finding the greatest common factor means that, first of all, I have to look to see which ones they have in common. So I can see that they have a 1, they have a 3, a 2, a 4, a 6, and a 12. So they have a lot in common. But when I'm finding the greatest common factor, that means that I'm going to find the greatest one that they have in common. So out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12, I know that 12 is the greatest factor. So both 12 and 24 can be divided by 12. All right. So I'm going to divide both of these numbers by 12. 12 divided by 12 is 1, and 24 divided by 12 is 2. So I know that 12 24ths is 1/2. They are equivalent, and this would be the simplest form of this fraction. All right, so I want you to pause this video using the same strategy that we just used. Try to figure out how to simplify 8/36. Okay, so hopefully you've paused the video by now and you've tried to solve this problem. So 8 and 36, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to list the factors off to the side. And if you think you already know what you could do, you might be able to jump right into it, but I'm going to list the factors just to be safe. So I know the factors of 8 are 8 times 1, 2 times 4, and that's it. And 36, I have 1 times 36, 2 times 18, 3 times 12, and 4 times 9. So if I'm looking at how many factors that these numbers have and what they have in common, I can see they have a 1, and they have a 2, and they have a 4, and that is all they have in common. So therefore the greatest one is the 4s. So I can divide both of these numbers by 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2, and 36 divided by 4 is 9. So I know my simplified version of 8/36 is 2/9. Great job. Okay, so there's another way that you can use factors to simplify. And this way is actually really cool. It involves a lot of crossing out though. So if you're not a very organized person, you can use this strategy, but you're going to have to try to see if you can organize yourself so that you kind of can see what's going on in here. So I have this fraction here, 10/45. And what I want to try to do is I'm going to, just like the other strategy, I'm going to list all of the different factors of these two numbers. So right off the bat, first of all, I know that the factors of 10 are 1 times 10 and 2 times 5. Alright, so then looking at 45, I know that the factors of 45 are 1 times 45, 3 times 15, and 9 times 5. Alright, so I need you to pay attention so that you can get this strategy. Alright, so I'm looking at the two different sets of factors here. And again, I want to try to find the greatest common factor between them. So really, I know that the only ones that they have in common are 1 and 5. Well, if I look, if I divided the fraction by 1, 10 divided by 1 and 45 divided by 1, I would get the same exact fraction. So I know that those two sets of factors are not going to work for me. I also look to say, okay, well, between those, the rest that are remaining, the only one I have in common are the 5s. So this 3 times 15, that's not going to do me any good. The only ones I can use are 2 times 5 and 9 times 5. This is a trick, guys. Looking here, I can see that the 5s are lined up. So the 5s cancel each other out. And then I look at, what do I have remaining? I have a 2 and I have a 9. So my new fraction, the simplified fraction that is, would be 2/9. Pretty cool, right? Okay, take this fraction, 21/56. Pause the video, see if you can figure out how to simplify this using its factors, and I'll meet you back in a few. Okay, so you should have paused the video, figured this one out using your factors knowledge, and let's solve it together to see if you got it right. Alright, so let's list all of our factors. In 21, that's kind of simple. I know that the only factors of 21 are 1 times 21 and 3 times 7. For 56, some of these are a little bit uncommon. First of all, I have 1 times 56. I know that 2 times 28 is a factor. 4 times 14 is a factor. And the more common one that you probably knew, 8 times 7. Alright, so I know what you're thinking. You're already seeing it. That is so good. First of all, I know that this ones they have in common, they're not going to help us any, because if I divide it by 1, I'm going to get the same thing. So I'm going to cross that out. It's not doing me any good. Now, looking at what else they have in common, the only thing else that they have in common is a 7. So I can cross out this 2 times 28 and this 4 times 14. And I have my 7s lined up here, so I can see that the 7s cancel each other out, and all I'm left with is 3 and 8. So I know that my new simplified fraction is 3/8. Great job. Alright, my friends, it is now time to go on Canvas and show what you have learned. Take the quiz, take your time, and use your notes. Alright, good luck.